I want you to think about the best investment you could have made over the last 35 years. Maybe you're thinking Apple stock, or real estate in a big city, or maybe even Bitcoin if you got lucky early. But what if I told you that the answer was actually sitting in someone's closet, wrapped in orange tissue paper, inside an orange box, and it costs about as much as a decent car? The Hermès Birkin bag has appreciated 500% over the last 35 years. That works out to roughly 14% per year. Compounding bow, which, if you know anything about investing, is actually better than the S&P 500's long-term average of around 10%, and significantly better than gold. And we're talking about a leather handbag. Today we're going to dig into why this bag costs anywhere from $9,000 to $500,000, how it became one of the most reliable stores of value in the world, and, most importantly, whether it actually makes sense as an investment. We're also going to compare it to something we've already covered on this channel, the Rolex watch, because these two objects, a watch and a bag, have been playing exactly the same game for decades, and both of them have been quietly beating Wall Street. To understand why this bag is worth what it is, you have to start at the beginning. And the beginning is a pretty remarkable story. It's 1981, and a flight from Paris to London is boarding. An English actress named Jane Birkin is trying to cram her signature wicker basket into the overhead compartment when the lid pops off and everything spills out across the aisle. A complete disaster. She turns to the man sitting next to her and vents about how impossible it is to find a good weekend bag, something actually functional that doesn't look terrible. The man introduces himself as Jean-Louis Dumas, the chief executive of Hermès. The two of them then spend the entire flight sketching handbag designs together on the back of an airplane's sick bag, a crumpled barf bag that became the blueprint for the most coveted luxury item on Earth. A few years later, Hermès unveiled the finished product. A spacious, elegant leather bag with functional pockets and a proper seal so nothing could ever fall out again. It was named after Jane, of course. And while it wasn't an overnight sensation, it took until the 1990s to truly explode as a cultural phenomenon. Once it did, it never looked back. Today, Victoria Beckham reportedly owns over 100 Birkins, with a collection estimated at more than $2 million. A Singaporean entrepreneur named Jamie Chua is believed to have the world's largest collection, over 200 bags. At this level, these aren't just accessories, they're a portfolio. A lot of people hear $9,000 for a handbag and immediately check out. But once you understand what goes into making one of these things, the price starts to make a strange kind of sense. Every Birkin is made entirely by hand, in France, using some of the finest materials available. Calfskin, alligator, ostrich. The craftsmen who build these bags train for years before they're allowed anywhere near a Birkin. And some spend a full decade mastering the techniques before they work on one. As one expert put it, these aren't just bags, they're pieces of artwork. And not one is the same as another, not even in a single stitch. And then there's the Himalaya. If regular Birkins are the top of the mountain, the Himalaya is somewhere in orbit. It's made from albino crocodile skin, one of the rarest materials on the planet, painstakingly dyed to mimic the gradients of snow on the Himalayan peaks, with 18-karat white gold hardware and over 200 diamonds. The most recent record-breaking example sold for $500,000. The man who bought it says his asking price, if he ever sells, is $2 million. This is one of the key parallels with Rolex. When you buy a Rolex, you're paying for decades of horological craftsmanship. Movements assembled with microscopic precision. Standards that haven't been lowered since the 1950s. The Birkin is the same story in a different medium. You're not paying for leather and thread, you're paying for mastery. Here's where the investment story really begins. And it comes down to something surprisingly simple. You can't just have one. Walking into an Hermès boutique and asking to buy a Birkin won't get you very far. There used to be a wait list, sometimes years long, but even that's gone now. Today you spend time with the brand, build a relationship, buy other products, and eventually, if Hermès decides you've earned it, you might be offered a Birkin. And when that offer comes, you don't get to negotiate on color or size. You take what's available, and you're grateful. On top of that, Hermès limits how many bags a single client can purchase per year. They're deliberately managing how many of these objects exist in the world at any given time. And it's the exact same strategy Rolex has used for decades. By keeping production lower than demand, Rolex ensured the authorized dealer price became a floor, not a ceiling. People started paying above retail, just to get their hands on a watch that was technically available at retail, if only you could find one. The Birkin operates on exactly the same principle. Estimates suggest there are around 200,000 Birkins in circulation worldwide, for a product with global demand from millions of wealthy buyers. That gap between want and access is precisely what drives the numbers we're about to look at. A 2017 study found that Hermès Birkin bags have appreciated 500% over 35 years, roughly 14% per year. The S&P 500, the benchmark most financial advisors point to, has averaged around 10% annually over the long term. Gold sits somewhere around 7 to 8%. So on raw percentage terms, the Birkin has quietly outperformed both assets people actually talk about as serious investments. But here's the part that really gets me. The floor. If you bought a Birkin in 2004 for around $5,000, used it regularly, carried it to dinners, took it on trips, actually lived with it, you could very likely sell it today for $5,000, maybe $6,000 or more. You got years of real-world use out of an object that didn't lose its value. Think about how few things you can say that about. Your car lost 20% the moment you drove it off the lot. Your phone is worth a fraction of what you paid within 2 years. The Birkin just holds. Compare that to Rolex. During peak demand, a stainless steel Daytona that retailed for around $13,000 was selling on the secondary market for $30,000, $40,000, sometimes more. The mechanics are identical. Genuine scarcity, powerful brand, obsessive demand, a collector community that treats these objects as currency. The main difference is that Rolex watches are slightly more liquid. More established platforms, more buyers, more transparent pricing. The Birkin market is more niche, but for the rarest pieces, the upside is even higher. That Himalaya Birkin that sold for $500,000 in 2019? The deal closed in 3 to 4 days over Instagram. The buyer posted he was looking for a bag, a seller reached out, and they moved $500,000 in less than a week. That's not a traditional investment market. That's something stranger and more interesting. The secondary market for Birkins is large, global, and still growing. Platforms like The RealReal and Privé Porter, which operates mostly through Instagram and WhatsApp, carry hundreds of Birkins at any given time, and most are priced above original retail. Even as more bags have become available through resale, prices haven't come down, because demand keeps growing faster than supply. Part of what sustains this is the same thing that makes each bag valuable in the first place. No two Birkins are identical. The combination of leather, color, size, and hardware creates something almost like a fingerprint. If you're looking for a specific Etain Birkin, size 35, with gold hardware, there might be exactly one available anywhere in the world right now. And if you want it, you'll pay a premium rather than wait months for another to surface. It's the same dynamic that makes certain Rolex references command multiples of their retail price on the secondary market. It wouldn't be fair to make this sound like a guaranteed win, so let's talk about the real risks. The biggest one is counterfeits. The fake Birkin market is enormous and getting more sophisticated every year. In 2012, Hermès sued a number of websites and won $100 million in damages. That same year, French police broke up a counterfeiting ring that included actual Hermès employees. The quality of fakes has improved dramatically, and spotting the difference takes a trained eye. The tells. The handle should never extend longer than the body of the bag, the hardware shouldn't be too shiny, and the feet on the bottom should always be hammered in, never screwed. The leather should feel genuinely soft and supple, and if the price feels too good to be true, it is. The second risk is liquidity. Unlike Rolex, which has auction houses, certified dealers, and established pricing databases, the Birkin market is more fragmented and relationship-driven. Finding the right buyer for the right bag takes real time, and condition matters enormously. A Rolex with surface scratches can be polished and serviced, but a Birkin with damaged leather or worn hardware loses value in ways that are very hard to recover. Here's the honest answer. For most people, a Birkin shouldn't be your primary investment strategy. It's illiquid, requires real expertise to buy safely, and locks up significant capital. If you're choosing between this and a diversified stock portfolio, the portfolio probably wins on paper. But as an alternative asset, a way to diversify and hold wealth in something tangible, the case is surprisingly strong. Just like Rolex, the Birkin proves that iconic brands with genuine craftsmanship and controlled scarcity tend to hold their value over time, almost regardless of what the broader market is doing. People have always been willing to pay a premium for things that feel rare and special, and that human tendency isn't going away anytime soon. The Birkin and the Rolex are both bets on that idea, and so far, that bet has paid off very well. So the next time someone tells you that buying a luxury handbag is throwing money away, you can tell them, actually, depending on which bag and when you bought it, you might have made more money than if you'd put that same cash into an index fund and had something genuinely beautiful to carry around in the meantime. If you found this interesting, go check out our Rolex video, same game, different object, and the parallels will make a lot more sense now that you've seen how the Birkin works. Link is right there. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.